Not to go all Bill Nye the Science Guy on you guys, but we've all seen moisture around a cold glass of water before. This is because moisture is attracted to the coldest point in any location. In your fridge, that's going to be the evaporator coil on the back wall. It kind of looks like a radiator. You can see it in this picture right here. When you open the door, the cold, heavy air in your freezer falls out and warm air from the outside comes in. As that outside air gets colder, the dew point shrinks and the moisture being attracted to the coldest point in the freezer, again, the back wall there, it is going to form condensation on that coil, and because your freezer is 0 degrees, that moisture is going to appear as frost. Now, back in the day, we used to have to unplug our fridge every few months so that the accumulated ice built up could pretty much manually be defrosted. Nowadays, we don't have to do that. There's actually a heater, and that heater is ran by a timer. It comes on about every 6 hours, and it pretty much melts any accumulated frost throughout the day from door openings and such. As the accumulated frost begins to melt, it runs down the trough via gravity into the drain hole. The drain has about a 3-inch tube that routes the water down into a pan where it evaporates. That tube, they put this whoopee cushion type fitting over it. I have it taken off here, but I just want to show you what it looks like. It has a little slit in it that allows water to still drip out of it, but it stops most of the cold air from being able to fall out. If that gets plugged up, and it's easy for it to get plugged up, it's already sticky enough as it is. But if the water stops being able to drip into the pan it evaporates in, then it's just plugged up and it starts to fill up and sort of spill over the front of the trough and then down onto your freezer floor. Also leaving an ice rink on the bottom of your freezer. And you may see water also pooled up on your freezer floor. So that's pretty much a gist of how it works. And here I am. This is the repair of how to actually get to all that ice and clear the drain. This is a KitchenAid freezer below. It's going to have 4 screws, 1 in each corner of the door. And I don't take those all the way out. The holes in the door are slotted, so you don't have to take the screws all the way out, just loosen them. And the door should just slide up and off. So here I am taking loose those screws, and then I'll take the door off, and that will be the beginning of getting into the freezer so we can clear all the ice that's already been accumulating. So not every configuration on the freezer below models is going to be able to just be pulled up and the whole door be taken off like I'm doing here. Some of them, the basket is connected to the door actually, and the whole thing actually lifts out. There's just a screw in the left and right hand side. As I've sort of shown here with the red arrows, that's about where the screws would be located, and once those come loose, they're actually on the door glides themselves. Kind of tricky to find, I guess, but once you pop those out, like I said, the whole basket comes up and out with the door. So once the door is successfully taken off, you can then start taking out the drawers and baskets, the ice bin, whatever else you need to remove in order to gain access to the back wall, and that's what I'm doing here. Okay, now that you have all the baskets and drawers taken out, you can start taking the ice maker out if it has one. The ice maker itself is held up by 3 screws, and it's also plugged into the back wall. The bottom screw underneath the ice maker, you will have to take all the way out. The top 2 are slotted, so you can just loosen those about halfway, and the ice maker should pop right up and off. Now that the ice maker is out, you should be able to start taking the screws off the back wall. Also, you should be able to, let's see, the middle fan cover there has 3 points that you're gonna have to get at to get it off. The middle one is just a tab you lift up, and the other two, actually you just stick a flathead screwdriver in there and kind of wedge it out. There's arrows that should be there as to where to put the screwdriver. Same thing with the thermistor cover here on the wall as well. Don't forget to pop the female part of the plug for the ice maker out too, because if you forget to push it back in, there's just a clip on each side of it. I'm going to show myself pushing it back here in the next clip, but yeah, just use a flathead screwdriver and push the clip on either side in, and it should just drop behind the wall. Otherwise it will try to rip the wiring out as you pull the wall with it. In the top left there's also a tube, and that is the chute for the water that goes into the ice maker. Those are usually rubber and pretty flexible. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but make sure when putting the wall back on that you put that thermistor in the top right corner back through, and also push the plug back in where it needs to go. Otherwise you'll put it back together and have to take it back apart. Here I am actually chipping away all the ice that's formed in the trough, under the trough. I am using a regular screwdriver or a flathead screwdriver here. You could use hot water also, that works well. Sometimes I need to use pliers or something heavy to sort of hit the back of the screwdriver to chip away at the thicker spots. Pretty much you just want to get it to where there's no ice left and you can see the drain hole clearly. Sometimes the frozen ice can be a trick to get to down in the drain tube. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing right here, is getting rid of all the ice that's accumulated. Once the ice is completely taken out, you want to then lower or raise the legs just behind the kick plate of your fridge at the bottom. All fridges are made with wheels for them to roll on. Usually the legs are put down once the fridge is in place, and you won't be able to budge the fridge at all if the legs are down. The rubber legs, there's little rubber feet that hold it in place. But if you can get like a 1/4 inch dog bone or 1/4 inch ratchet like I have here, and just take the legs up until the fridge is resting on the wheels, it'll be much easier to slide out and not damage your floor at all. I'm sorry I wasn't able to film me actually taking the back panel off, but the back panel has maybe 4 or 5 screws. Once you get it off, you'll see the compressor, and in about 6 inches right in the middle, I already have it taken off in this video, but you'll see that tube right there and the chute and the slide for it to go down to the pan it evaporates in. But there is like a green plastic or rubbery, you can see it in my hand kind of in this video. It's a very sticky rubbery plastic fitting that slides over that drain tube, and what that does is stops cold air in the freezer from getting out. Otherwise your freezer would never get cold enough. So they slide that little fitting or that rubber fitting over it, and since it has such a small thin slit in it, basically just enough for the gravity to pull the water through it still, but not any cold air. But it's really easy if anything gets down in there for it to clog up, and in this case, and in most cases, that's what stops the water from coming out and actually flooding out onto your floor. Sometimes it can be physical objects, maybe like frozen peas or something, or if your freezer's too cold, for instance, the water may freeze before draining. If you found this video to be of value to you, feel free to leave me a donation at PayPal or Venmo. I will leave my links in the description below, and take care.